Admiral Vex Thul stood on the bridge of his massive warship. The ship was called Dominion's Edge, and it was the biggest ship in the Kaltharan Empire's fleet. Around him, alien officers worked at their stations. Their blue skin glowed softly in the dim light. Their 4 arms moved quickly over the controls. "Show me the reports," Vexithul said to his aide. The hologram appeared in front of him. It showed a small section of space near the edge of the galaxy. Red dots marked human colonies. There were only 12 of them. Each dot was tiny compared to the Empire's vast territory. "These humans are new," the aide said. "They have been in space for less than 200 years. Our scouts say they have weak ships and simple weapons." Vexthul nodded. He had done this many times before. In his 3,000 years of life, he had conquered 47 different species. Humans would be number 48. It was always the same. The Empire would arrive with its great fleet. The aliens would see how powerful the Empire was. Then they would surrender. "How many ships do they have?" Vexthul asked. "Maybe 70 ships total," the aide replied. "All of them are small. The biggest human ship is smaller than our smallest fighter." Vexthul smiled. His fleet had 300 ships. Each ship was 10 times bigger than the largest human vessel. This would be easy. Far away, in human space, Captain Jake Morrison was having a very different conversation. He stood on the bridge of his ship, Liberty's Dawn. Around him, human crew members worked at their stations. The bridge was bright and clean. Everything was white and blue. "Captain," his communication officer called out, "we're getting strange readings from long-range sensors." Morrison walked over to look at the screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Hundreds of dots were moving toward human space. Each dot was huge. "How big are those ships?" Morrison asked. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Bell checked his instruments. "Each one is about 2 kilometers long, sir. The biggest one is almost 4 kilometers. Morrison felt his stomach drop. The Liberty's Dawn was only 300 meters long. These alien ships were giants. "Send a message to Admiral Grant at Terra Prime," Morrison ordered. "Priority 1. Tell her we have company coming." Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Grant was in her office when the message came in. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been in the Space Navy for 30 years. She had never seen anything like this. "How many ships?" she asked her aide. "Over 300, ma'am. Maybe more. They're still coming through the jump point." Grant stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see Earth's orbital shipyards. Human workers were building new ships as fast as they could, but they only had 68 ships ready to fight. "Call an emergency meeting," Grant said. "Get all the ship captains on video link. We need to talk." 1 hour later, Grant was looking at screens showing dozens of human ship captains. Captain Morrison was there from the Liberty's Dawn, Captain Greg Thompson from the Defiant Star, Captain Susan Clark from the Iron Will, Captain Tony Martinez from the Horizon's Edge. They all looked worried. "Here's what we know," Grant began. "A large alien fleet is coming toward us. They have about 300 ships. Each ship is much bigger than ours. They will reach our outer colonies in 6 days. "What do they want?" Captain Thompson asked. "We don't know yet," Grant replied. "But based on their formation, this looks like an invasion fleet." Meanwhile, on the Liberty's Dawn, Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez was working in the engine room. She was looking at data from the alien ships. Her computers were trying to figure out how their technology worked. "These aliens use plasma weapons," she told her team, "and they have energy shields around their ships. But look at this." She pointed to her screen. "Their shield frequencies follow a pattern. There might be weak spots." Dr. Karen White was working in the science lab. She was the ship's chief science officer. She was studying the energy readings from the alien fleet. "Their technology is old," she said to herself. "Very powerful, but old. They haven't changed their designs in a long time." On the Kaltharan flagship, Admiral Vex Thul was ready to send his standard message. It was the same message he sent to every species before he conquered them. "Open communication to the human worlds," he ordered. The message was simple and clear. "I am Admiral Vex Thul of the Kaltharan Empire. You will surrender all your worlds to us. You will become part of our empire. If you resist, we will destroy you. You have 1 day to decide. The message reached Admiral Grant 12 hours later. She read it 3 times. Then she called another meeting with her captains. They want us to surrender, she told them. They're giving us 1 day to decide. What's our answer? Captain Morrison asked. Grant smiled for the first time that day. I think we should be polite about it. She recorded her reply message. It was short and simple. Thank you for your message. We have considered your offer carefully. We must decline. Please enjoy your stay in our neighborhood. When Admiral Vexthul received the human reply, he stared at the message for a long time. In 3,000 years, no species had ever said no to the Empire. Every other race had surrendered immediately. Some had begged for mercy. Others had tried to negotiate, but none had ever simply said no. Are you sure this message is correct? He asked his communication officer. Yes, Admiral. They said no. Vexthul was confused, but not worried. Sometimes young species needed to see the Empire's power before they understood. He would destroy one of their colonies. Then they would surrender like all the others. But as he gave orders to prepare for attack, Admiral Vexthul did not know something important about humans. He did not know that they were different from every other species he had conquered. He did not know that humans had a strange habit of getting more dangerous when someone threatened them. On Earth, Admiral Grant was making final preparations. Human ships were moving into position. The orbital defense platforms were charging their weapons. The asteroid belt mining stations were being evacuated. But the humans were not just preparing to defend themselves. They were preparing to learn. Every sensor was focused on the approaching alien fleet. Every computer was analyzing their technology. Every engineer was thinking of ways to fight ships that were 10 times bigger than their own. The Caltheran Empire was about to meet humanity for the first time. Neither side knew that this meeting would change the galaxy forever. Admiral Vexthul decided to show the humans what happened when someone said no to the Empire. He chose a small human mining station in the asteroid belt. It was called Mining Station 7. Only 50 humans worked there. Destroy that station, he ordered his gunners. Make sure the humans can see what we do to those who resist. 5 Caltheran ships moved toward the mining station. Their weapons were much bigger than anything humans had ever built. The station's shields lasted only 3 seconds. Then the plasma beams cut through the metal like a hot knife through butter. The station exploded in a bright flash of light. Send the recording to all human ships, Vexthul said. Let them see what happens when they defy us. But something strange happened. The human ships did not run away. Instead, they moved closer together. They formed defensive groups around their colonies. Admiral Vexthul had expected the humans to surrender immediately after seeing his power. Instead, they seemed to be preparing for war. Captain Morrison received the recording of the destroyed mining station. He watched it with his senior officers on the bridge of Liberty's Dawn. The explosion was terrible. 50 good people had died in just a few seconds. Sir, what are your orders? Lieutenant Commander Bell asked. Morrison looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet was moving toward the human colony of New Geneva. We're going to investigate that destroyed station. We need to learn everything we can about their weapons. Sir, that's very dangerous, Chief Rodriguez said. They might still be watching that area. I know, Morrison replied. But we need to understand how their technology works. If we're going to fight these aliens, we need every advantage we can get. Morrison's ship joined 3 other human vessels. Captain Thompson brought the Defiant Star. Captain Clark came with the Iron Will. Captain Martinez flew in with the Horizon's Edge. Together, the 4 ships moved toward what was left of Mining Station 7. The area was full of floating debris. Pieces of metal and plastic drifted in space. But Dr. White was more interested in the energy readings her instruments were detecting. Look at this, she said, showing her data to the other officers. The alien weapons leave energy traces. I can see exactly what frequency they used. Chief Rodriguez studied the readings. Their plasma beams are very powerful, but they use a lot of energy. And look at this pattern. Their shields pulse every few seconds. There's a tiny gap in the energy field each time it resets. How tiny? Morrison asked. About 1/10 of a second, Rodriguez replied. But if we could time our shots exactly right, we might be able to get through their shields. Dr. White made another discovery. Their weapon systems are very old. The design hasn't changed in hundreds of years. They're powerful, but they're not efficient. Our weapons are smaller, but they use energy much better. Meanwhile, the Caltharan fleet was approaching New Geneva. The colony had 3 million people living on it. It was one of humanity's most important worlds outside of Earth. Admiral Vexthul expected to find panic and chaos. He expected the humans to be evacuating their people and begging for mercy. Instead, he found something very different. The human colonists were not running away. They were preparing to fight. Civilian cargo ships were being fitted with weapons. Mining vessels were joining the defense fleet. Even passenger ships were volunteering to help. But the strangest thing was the music. The humans were broadcasting music across all radio frequencies. It was loud and strong and full of energy. The Caltharan translators worked quickly to understand the words. What they found confused them even more. The humans were singing about fighting. They were singing about standing together against enemies. They were singing about never giving up, even when facing impossible odds. Some of the songs were hundreds of years old, others were newer, but they all had the same message. Humans would rather die fighting than live as slaves. What kind of species sings when facing destruction? Admiral Vexthul asked his aide. I don't know, Admiral. This has never happened before. Admiral Vexthul was starting to feel uncomfortable. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had seen many different reactions from alien species. Some had surrendered immediately. Some had tried to negotiate, some had even tried to fight, but none had ever responded to the Empire's power by singing battle songs. On the surface of New Geneva, Governor Kate Wilson was coordinating the planet's defense. She was in the Emergency Command Center, deep underground. Around her, civilian and military personnel worked together to prepare for the coming attack. How many ships do we have? She asked her defense coordinator. 47 ships that can fight, he replied. Plus about 200 civilian vessels that want to help. We're giving them basic weapons and shield generators. And the orbital platforms? All 12 platforms are armed and ready. We've also set up weapon emplacements on both moons. Governor Wilson nodded. New Geneva would not be easy to take, but she knew they were still badly outnumbered. Back in space, Captain Morrison was sharing his discoveries with the rest of the human fleet. The information about shield gaps and weapon frequencies was being sent to every human ship. This is very useful, Admiral Grant said during a video conference, but we need more information. We need to see how they fight when someone shoots back. Are you ordering us to attack them? Morrison asked. Not yet, Grant replied. But I want you to be ready. If they attack New Geneva, I want you to hit them hard and fast. Learn everything you can about their tactics. Then get out before they can respond in force. Chief Rodriguez had been working non-stop to modify human weapons based on Dr. White's discoveries. She had found a way to make their laser cannons pulse at exactly the right frequency to exploit the gaps in Caltharan shields. It's not perfect, she explained to Captain Morrison. We'll only have about 50 shots before they figure out what we're doing and adjust their shields. But those 50 shots might be enough to surprise them. Dr. White had made another important discovery. Their ships are very big, but most of that size is empty space. They build their ships to look impressive, not to be efficient. Our smaller ships are actually faster and more maneuverable. Lieutenant Commander Bell was studying Caltharan fleet formations. They fight like they're still living in the past, he said. Big ships in straight lines, firing all their weapons at once. They're used to enemies that either surrender or stand still and get destroyed. What if we don't do either of those things? Morrison asked. Then they might have problems, Bell replied with a small smile. As the Caltharan fleet moved closer to New Geneva, Admiral Vexthul prepared to demonstrate the Empire's power once again. He would destroy this human colony just like he had destroyed the mining station. Then the rest of humanity would surrender. But Admiral Vexthul had never fought humans before. He did not know that humans had spent their entire history fighting wars against impossible odds. He did not know that humans got smarter and more dangerous every time someone attacked them. Most importantly, he did not know that the small human ships moving toward his fleet were not trying to surrender or negotiate. They were coming to fight, and they had spent the last few days learning everything they could about how to hurt his ships. The first real battle between humans and the Caltheran Empire was about to begin. Neither side knew it yet, but this battle would be different from every other conquest in the Empire's long history. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Empire was about to face an enemy that refused to be conquered. The first battle happened near New Geneva's largest moon. Admiral Vexthul brought 60 of his biggest warships into the system. Each ship was massive and covered with weapons. To him, this looked like every other conquest. He would destroy the human ships quickly, then bomb the planet until they surrendered. "Form attack formation," he ordered his fleet. "All ships advance in a straight line. Target the largest human vessels first." The Caltheran ships moved forward like a wall of metal and death. Their plasma cannons began charging. Their shields glowed bright blue around each ship. It was an impressive sight that had made 47 different species surrender without firing a shot. But the humans did something unexpected. Admiral Grant had positioned her ships throughout the asteroid field near the moon. The human fleet was spread out over thousands of kilometers. When the Caltheran ships advanced, they found no easy targets to shoot at. Captain Morrison led the first attack. His ship, Liberty's Dawn, flew out from behind a large asteroid. 3 other ships followed him: Defiant Star, Iron Will, and Horizon's Edge. They moved fast and stayed low, using the asteroid field for cover. "Target the lead ship," Morrison ordered. "All ships, use Rodriguez's frequency modifications. Fire on my mark." The 4 human ships fired their weapons at exactly the same time. Their laser beams hit the Caltheran ship just as its shields reset. For 1/10 of a second, the shields were down. The human weapons cut deep into the alien ship's hull. "Direct hit," Lieutenant Commander Bell reported. Their shields went down for a moment, just like Dr. White predicted. But the human ships did not stay to fight. They fired once and then disappeared back into the asteroid field. The Caltheran ship was damaged but not destroyed. More importantly, Admiral Vexthul was confused. "Where did they go?" he demanded. "They're hiding in the asteroids, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "Our sensors can't track them clearly with all that rock in the way." Before Vexthul could respond, another group of human ships attacked from a different direction. This time it was Captain Thompson leading 3 ships against a Caltheran destroyer. Again, they fired once and disappeared. "This is not how space battles work," Vexthul said angrily. "Ships are supposed to line up and fight until one side is destroyed." But humans had never read the Caltheran rules of warfare. Captain Clark brought her ship Iron Will around the back of the Caltheran formation. She had 4 other ships with her. They attacked the engines of a Caltheran cruiser. The alien ship's power systems failed, and it began drifting helplessly. "Another one down," she reported to Admiral Grant. "Their engines are not well protected." The Caltheran fleet tried to respond, but they had a problem. Their ships were designed to fight enemies that stood still and traded shots. The human ships kept moving. They would attack, disappear, and then attack again from somewhere else. Chief Rodriguez had been busy during the battle. She was studying how the Caltheran weapons worked. Every time they fired, her instruments recorded the energy patterns. "I've figured out their targeting systems," she told Captain Morrison. "They have trouble hitting small, fast-moving targets. Their computers are set up to fight big, slow ships." Dr. White made another discovery. Their ship formations are very rigid. They can't change direction quickly. If we can get them to follow us into the asteroid field, some of their ships will crash into the rocks. Lieutenant Commander Bell was coordinating the battle from his position on Liberty's Dawn. He had divided the human fleet into small groups. Each group would attack a different part of the Caltheran formation. When the aliens tried to respond to one attack, another group would hit them from behind. "It's working," he reported to Admiral Grant. "They're getting frustrated and making mistakes." The Caltherans were indeed making mistakes. Admiral Vexthul ordered his ships to chase the human vessels into the asteroid field. Several Caltheran ships crashed into large rocks because they were not used to flying through such dangerous areas. Other ships got separated from the main fleet and became easy targets for human attack groups. Captain Martinez led his ship Horizon's Edge in a daring attack on the Caltheran flagship itself. He brought 6 other ships with him. They fired everything they had at Dominion's edge. The massive alien ship's shields held, but the attack sent a clear message. Humans were not afraid of the Empire's biggest ships. They would attack anything that got in their way. "Sir," We've lost 12 ships, Admiral Vexthol's aide reported. The humans have only lost 3 ships. Vexthol could not believe what he was hearing. His fleet was 5 times bigger than the human force. His ships were 10 times more powerful, but somehow the humans were winning. How is this possible? He demanded. They don't fight like any species we've conquered before, his tactical officer said. They work together perfectly. When one ship is in trouble, 2 others come to help it. When we attack one group, 3 other groups attack us. The battle continued for 6 hours. The humans kept hitting and running. They used the asteroids for cover. They coordinated their attacks perfectly. Most importantly, they learned from every exchange. Dr. White discovered that Caltharan's shields became weaker when the ships took damage. Chief Rodriguez figured out how to jam their communication systems for short periods. Lieutenant Commander Bell learned to predict where the Caltharan ships would move next. By the end of the battle, the Caltharan fleet had lost 21 ships. The human fleet had lost only 5, but more importantly, Admiral Vexthul had learned something terrible. The humans were not just defending themselves, they were studying his fleet. Every attack taught them something new about Caltharan technology. Every exchange made them better fighters. Admiral, his communication officer said, we're receiving a message from the human fleet. The message was from Admiral Grant. It was simple and direct. Thank you for the training exercise. We learned a lot about your ships today. Would you like to try again tomorrow? Admiral Vexthul stared at the message. In 3,000 years, no one had ever thanked the Empire for attacking them. No one had ever suggested that being shot at was good practice. No one had ever asked for more fighting. Sir, what are your orders? His aide asked. Vexthul looked at the tactical display. His fleet was damaged and scattered. The humans were already regrouping for another attack. Their ships moved with confidence and precision. They showed no fear of his massive vessels. Pull back to the edge of the system, he ordered. I need to call for reinforcements. As the Caltharan fleet retreated, the human ships did not pursue them. Instead, they began collecting the wreckage from destroyed alien vessels. Dr. White wanted to study every piece of Caltharan technology she could find. Captain Morrison watched the alien ships withdraw. He felt proud of his crew and his fellow humans. They had faced impossible odds and found a way to win. But he also knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would send more ships, bigger ships, better weapons. The humans would need to be ready. How long before they come back? Lieutenant Commander Bell asked. Not long, Morrison replied. But we'll be ready for them. We're getting better at this every day. On the surface of New Geneva, Governor Wilson received reports of the human victory. The colonists celebrated in the streets. They had faced the mighty Caltharan Empire and survived. But Admiral Grant was already planning for the next battle. She knew the Empire would not give up easily. They would send everything they had to crush humanity. The question was, would humanity be able to keep learning and adapting fast enough to survive what was coming next? Admiral Vexthul was angry and embarrassed. No species had ever defeated his fleet before. He sent an urgent message to the Empire's capital world, asking for more ships and better weapons. The Empire's response was swift and overwhelming. Admiral Zarketh arrived 3 days later with 100 additional warships. These were newer vessels with stronger shields and more powerful weapons. The combined Caltharan fleet now had over 400 ships against humanity's remaining 61 vessels. This is impossible, Admiral Zarketh said when he saw the battle reports. How did humans destroy so many of our ships? They fight differently, Vexthul replied. They don't follow proper military tactics. They attack and run away. They hide behind rocks. They work together like insects in a hive. No matter, Zarketh said coldly. We have enough ships now to destroy them completely. Even if they hide, we can blow up every asteroid in their system. But the humans had not been idle during those 3 days. Admiral Grant had ordered all human ships to retreat toward Earth. To the Caltharans, this looked like a full retreat. The humans appeared to be running home to make their last stand. The Caltharan fleet followed them eagerly. Admiral Zarketh was confident that the war would end when they reached the human homeworld. Earth would surrender when they saw the massive alien fleet approaching. Captain Morrison led the human retreat. His ship Liberty's Dawn had been badly damaged in the last battle, so Chief Rodriguez had rebuilt it with captured Caltharan technology. The ship was now faster and stronger than before. Sir, the alien fleet is following us, Lieutenant Commander Bell reported. They think we're running away. Morrison smiled. Let them think that. Admiral Grant has a surprise waiting for them. Dr. White had spent the last 3 days studying captured Caltheran technology. She had made several important discoveries. The aliens used quantum processors for their computers, but the processors had a weakness. They could be overloaded with the right kind of signal. I can jam their entire fleet's computer systems for about 10 minutes, she told Morrison, but I can only do it once. After that, they'll adapt their systems to block my signal. Chief Rodriguez had been even busier. She had figured out how to reverse engineer Caltheran shield generators and weapons. Human engineers throughout the solar system were working around the clock to install the new technology on every human ship. It's not perfect, she explained. Our ships are smaller, so we can't fit the biggest weapons, but we can match their shield strength now, and our ships are still faster and more maneuverable. The Caltheran fleet entered the outer solar system expecting to find a defeated enemy. Instead, they discovered that the entire solar system had been turned into a fortress. Hidden weapons platforms suddenly activated throughout the asteroid belt. Secret bases on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn began firing missiles. Orbital stations around Earth revealed themselves to be heavily armed defense platforms. But the biggest surprise was the human fleet itself. Sir, I'm reading 143 human ships, the Caltheran sensor officer reported to Admiral Zarketh. That's more than twice what we saw before. That's impossible, Zarketh replied. Where did they get so many ships? The answer was simple. The evacuation ships that had been fleeing toward Earth were actually reinforcements. Human shipyards had been working at maximum speed to build new vessels. The colonial defense fleets had joined the main fleet. Even converted civilian ships had been armed and given military crews. Captain Thompson now commanded a new destroyer called Thunderstrike. It was built using hybrid human Caltheran technology and was faster than any ship either species had built before. Captain Clark led a squadron of stealth frigates. These ships could become nearly invisible to Caltheran sensors by using modified versions of the aliens' own cloaking technology. Captain Martinez commanded a group of heavy cruisers equipped with captured Caltheran plasma cannons. The weapons were smaller than the originals, but they were just as deadly. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge of her flagship, Eternal Flame. The ship had been completely rebuilt with alien technology, but it was still recognizably human in design. It was sleek and fast rather than big and intimidating. All ships, this is Admiral Grant, she broadcast to the human fleet. Today we defend our home. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will not bow to tyrants. All ships, attack Formation 7. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. They had practiced this formation many times. Each ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. The Caltherans had never seen anything like it. Captain Morrison now commanded a ship called Rising Phoenix. It was built from the hull of a captured Caltheran cruiser, but it had been completely redesigned by human engineers. The ship was faster than any Caltheran vessel and more heavily armed than anything humanity had built before. Dr. White had made contact with captured Caltheran scientists. What she learned from them changed everything. The Empire had not improved their technology in over 1,000 years. They had grown lazy and comfortable after so many easy conquests. They've forgotten how to innovate, she told Admiral Grant. When you win every battle easily, you stop trying to get better. We've advanced our technology more in the last month than they have in the last century. Chief Rodriguez had been working with teams of engineers throughout human space. They had taken apart dozens of captured Caltheran ships and studied every component. Then they had built something new, ships that combined the best of both technologies. Human ships were now just as well armed as Caltheran vessels, but they were still faster and more maneuverable. More importantly, human crews had learned to work together in ways the Caltherans never could. Lieutenant Commander Bell had discovered something important about Caltheran military culture. They don't adapt during battle, he explained to the other officers. Each ship follows its original orders no matter what happens. They can't change their plans when the situation changes. But we can, Morrison replied with a smile. The final battle began when the Caltheran fleet reached Earth's moon. Admiral Vexthal expected to find the human fleet waiting in defensive positions around their home planet. Instead, he found something that confused him completely. The human ships were spread throughout the entire solar system. Some were near Mars. Others were hiding in the asteroid belt. A few groups were positioned near Jupiter's moons. There was no main fleet to attack. "What kind of defense is this?" Vexthul asked his tactical officer. "I don't understand it either, Admiral. They've divided their forces across billions of kilometers. We can destroy each group separately." But Admiral Vexthul had learned to be suspicious of anything humans did. In every previous battle, the humans had surprised him. He decided to be more careful this time. The Caltharan fleet advanced slowly toward Earth. As they moved, human ships began attacking them from all directions. These were not major assaults, but small, precise strikes that damaged key systems on the alien vessels. Captain Thompson led Thunderstrike in an attack on the Caltharan communication array. Captain Clark's stealth ships sabotaged their sensor networks. Captain Martinez's heavy cruisers targeted their supply ships. Each attack was small, but together they began to cripple the Caltharan fleet's ability to coordinate their movements. Ships lost contact with their commanders. Sensor arrays went dark. Supply lines were cut. "Sir, we're losing coordination with the outer fleet elements," Admiral Vexthul's aide reported. "Many ships are operating independently now." "Then we proceed with the main assault," Vexthul decided. "All ships, direct course for Earth. Destroy everything in our path." But Admiral Grant had been expecting this. As the Caltharan fleet approached Earth, they found themselves flying into the most sophisticated defense network ever created. Every satellite around Earth was armed. The moon had been turned into a weapons platform. Hidden bases throughout the solar system revealed themselves and began firing. Even the space stations where humans lived and worked had been equipped with defensive weapons. But the greatest surprise was the human fleet itself. The ships that had seemed scattered and disorganized suddenly moved with perfect coordination. They had been positioned exactly where they needed to be to attack the Caltharan fleet from every possible angle. Captain Morrison led Rising Phoenix in a direct assault on the Caltharan flagship. But he was not trying to destroy it. He was trying to capture it. "Sir, the humans are boarding our ships," Admiral Vexthul's aide reported in panic. "They're not destroying them, they're taking them intact." "Why would they do that?" Vexthul demanded. Dr. White could have answered that question. The humans were not just fighting to win this battle, they were fighting to capture as much Caltharan technology as possible. Every ship they took would make humanity stronger. The battle lasted 18 hours. It was the largest space battle in galactic history. But as the hours passed, it became clear that the humans were winning. They had learned to use the gravity fields of planets and moons to accelerate their ships to incredible speeds. They had learned to coordinate attacks across vast distances. Most importantly, they had learned to adapt their tactics faster than their enemies could respond. By dawn of the next day, the Caltharan fleet was in ruins. Over 300 ships had been destroyed. Another 100 had been captured by human forces. The remaining ships were fleeing toward the edge of the solar system. Admiral Vexthul found himself alone on the bridge of his damaged flagship. Most of his crew was dead or captured. His ship was drifting helplessly with its engines destroyed. A human ship approached. It was Captain Morrison's Rising Phoenix. The human captain appeared on Vexthul's view screen. "Admiral Vexthul, this is Captain Morrison. Do you surrender?" Vexthul looked around his ruined bridge. 3,000 years of Caltharan dominance had ended in less than 2 months. A species that had barely entered space was now more powerful than the empire that had conquered the galaxy. "I surrender," he said quietly. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge of eternal flame, watching the last Caltharan ships flee the solar system. Around her, displays showed the results of the battle. 17 human ships had been lost, but they had captured or destroyed most of the Empire's fleet. Lieutenant Commander Bell approached with a preliminary report. "Admiral, we've captured over 200 Caltharan ships. Our engineering teams are already studying their technology. Chief Rodriguez estimates we'll be able to build ships twice as powerful as anything we have now." "And the prisoners?" Grant asked. "We're treating them well, as per the Geneva Convention. Dr. White says many of them want to cooperate. They're tired of serving an empire that treats them as expendable." Captain Tony Martinez approached with another report. "Admiral, We've intercepted communications from across Caltheran space. News of their defeat is spreading quickly. Several conquered species are beginning to rebel against their Caltheran governors. Admiral Grant nodded. This was what she had hoped for. Humanity had not just defeated the Caltheran Empire. They had shown every conquered species in the galaxy that the Empire could be beaten. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the fleeing Caltheran ships," the communication officer reported. "They're requesting terms for their retreat." Grant smiled. It was the same smile that Captain Morrison had seen when she first read the Caltheran surrender demand weeks ago. But now it had a different meaning. "Open a channel to all frequencies," she ordered. "I want everyone in the galaxy to hear this." The transmission went out across space, reaching not just the fleeing Caltheran ships, but every world in their empire. "This is Admiral Grant of the Terran Defense Fleet. To the Caltheran ships, your retreat is granted. Please inform your Emperor that humanity thanks him for the technological gifts he has provided. We will be sure to share these gifts with all the species your empire has conquered." She paused and her smile grew wider. "And please tell him that humanity will be visiting soon. We have many friends to make and many people to liberate. The age of the Caltheran Empire is over. The age of freedom has begun." As the transmission ended, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, conquered species were rising up against their Caltheran rulers. The Empire's forces were scattered and demoralized after their crushing defeat at Earth. Dr. White approached Admiral Grant with a final report. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the star charts we captured from Caltheran ships. They show the location of every conquered world in their empire. Hundreds of species that have been enslaved for thousands of years." "How long until we can build a fleet large enough to help them?" Grant asked. Chief Rodriguez, who had been listening, stepped forward. "With the technology we've captured and the shipyards we're building, we could have a liberation fleet ready in 6 months. Admiral Grant looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of people were waiting for freedom. Humanity had the power to give it to them. "Then we'd better get started," she said. Captain Morrison joined the group on the bridge. He looked tired but happy. "So what happens now?" he asked. Grant's smile became gentle and determined. "Now we do what humans do best. We help people who can't help themselves. We free the enslaved and protect the innocent. We show the galaxy what it means to be human." As the sun rose over Earth, the planet looked different than it had just 2 months before. It was no longer a hidden world on the edge of space. It was the capital of a new kind of empire, an empire built not on conquest, but on liberation. The Caltheran Empire had fallen. In its place, something new was being born, something that would change the galaxy forever. And it all began with a simple message: "We decline your generous offer." Humanity had smiled in amusement when faced with impossible odds. Now the entire galaxy would learn what that smile really meant.